Hi there, guys, and welcome to Fulcrum Intel Digest, your channel of choice where all intelligence, geopolitical, and strategic matters is discussed. Today, we are joined with two ladies, which I view as stalwarts in the private intelligence industry, Ms. Jasmin Opperman and then my colleague Cara Rao. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you, Opperman.
Just for the relevance of our viewers, Jasmin, I would like to take the opportunity to introduce you quickly. So Jasmin Opperman is a consultant specializing in political violence and extremism. She brings extensive experience in intelligence tradecraft, which has further strengthened her work across a wide range of consulting and analytical projects. Jasmin, welcome to the channel.
Alvin, thank you, and good morning to the two of you. God, I'm looking forward to this discussion. And thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the invitation, Alvin, Cara. I'm looking forward and hopefully not having the final answer to all the problems, but at least have some more insight into what's going on in this crazy world.
And by now, all our regular viewers would know the name Cara Rao, but just for those that are new to the channel, Cara Rao is a senior intelligence analyst associated with Fulcrum Intel Digest. Her research interest includes jihadist terrorism, dare I slaughter it, and political violence and social linguistics. Cara, please enlighten us with your expertise today.
Oh, I'm so excited, Alvain. I want to say a huge thank you to Jasmin. She has been someone I've admired for many years. I've admired her work. So I am so excited to have this conversation with her and for us to just get into it and to really speak about something that we're both, and you including Alvain, we're all very passionate about, and something that's very relevant to South Africa, but also the global geopolitical situation at the moment. So I'm very excited. And without any further ado, then I think we should get into it. So, Jasmin, we have some very interesting questions lined up for you today, and our questions will range from domestic issues in South Africa all the way across the entire globe, which is just, I think, one of the most important things to contextualize South Africa in the global situation, because I think we are overlooked sometimes, especially in terms of terrorism. So let's get into it. So, Jasmin, our first question for you, and it's quite a zinger in my opinion. So we would like to know from you, in your opinion, what is the biggest terrorist threat to South Africa and why? And what needs to be done to protect South Africa from this threat before it's too late? Because, Jasmin, we sometimes see people already. I've read many of your articles, particularly I've read articles from other experts, and the threat of terrorism, specifically jihadist terrorism, it seems like it's growing. It continues to go. So I'm very interested in your expertise here. What would you say to that question?
Thank you, Cara. And I've read some of your products you've written, and well done. As a great respect for your analytical mind. Before we start talking about terrorism and threats, I think we need to understand that threats in themselves are competitive in nature. So if you're going to start talking about threats to South Africa, there are numerous threats that we are currently facing in terms of our domestic situation, our regional and international. But let's get back to terrorism. If terrorism then competes with the other threats, how do we measure it? Because we can't measure it, we can't come to a conclusion. I think there it's important to look at three things: the likelihood, the capability, and the direction of travel by extremism, terrorism. Now, if one starts looking at direction of travel, if one looks at Cabo Delgado, Mozambique, if one looks at a bit further away, DRC, and what we have with Islamic State, and its linkages to ADF and the militia groups being active there, but some of them prone to extremism. One cannot deny the geographical reality that has shifted in Southern Africa. I remember with Cabo Delgado, when we started doing early warning on this, people were of the opinion we were gaslighting. You are inflaming a situation. Voila, here we are. In May, the Bishop of Palestine had an urgent warning that it is just chaos. Although the attacks might not be so high, the humanitarian situation is devastating. And we have seen a surge in attacks over the last month and a half. So the geopolitical context has to be understood from that. Then if one looks at the whole issue of capability and how terrorism presents itself, I want to go back to the grey listing.
Yes.
We cannot ignore that reality. And sorry, I'm going back to my notes here.
No, of course.
We cannot deny that facilitation of a facilitated network from South Africa is at play. How much money goes to terrorism? It's a highly complex issue. I mean, if you can focus on terrorism and terror financing, you need international cooperation. You need to determine, was the intent there, was money shifted in Somalia's side to Islamic State in Somalia? So it becomes highly problematic. But the fact of the matter is, we sit, and I take you back to 2022, Humacell, the whole issue about that. I take you to the Akbar brothers, November 2022 as well. And then, of course, the other issues of Quds Foundation. If we start talking about
absolutely, what a wonderful point to bring up. Yes.
And we do know that they have been listed by the United States Treasury as a while back now. I can give you specific dates if you want. But at the end of the day, when we look at the grey listing, what was the concern? The concern was prosecution. That was it. We're not seeing money laundering being prosecuted.
No.
And if I can take you back to the Tulsi case, if you can remember the Tulsi twins.
I do remember. For the sake of our listeners, shall we give a quick one sentence on who they were?
Look, they were the twin brothers, and I remember it. I was at that point in time heavily involved with some of their family members, where they were entrapped by the CIA. It was an entrapment of the two brothers. They started posting photos of themselves. They're going to attack the US embassy. I talk about capability. Seriously?
Oh, man.
Then they ended up in prison. And attacks against Jews was also high on the agenda. And they went back to Facebook photos only to realize that they are standing there with, what is it, paintball machines. Your generation would know better than I do, and not actually weapons. But the next thing we heard that they're in Mozambique. They're in Mozambique. And it's not, up until today, it has not been verified. Up until today, it has not been verified. And when the court case came, I said to a colleague of mine, watch how they're going to stretch this. They're going to play time now. And then the CIA dumped a mass of data, way beyond the capability. So these networks, and then they got to an agreement, and they admitted they were ISIS members, blah, 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 and very short sentences given to them. But anyway, the reality of the matter is that there are networks at play. And this is the one thing about South Africa we need to understand. Why is it that we don't have suicide bombings? Why is it that every now and then, they're going to attack the Pride Parade? I can remember all hell-breaking news.
I remember. Oh my goodness, Jasmin, the people in my circles at the time were running around like headless chickens. For those who don't remember this was the CIA. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jasmin, but for those who aren't aware, there was news from the American intelligence given to our national intelligence, our intelligence infrastructure in South Africa, that there would be an attack, that they had information of an attack against an LGBTQ parade. I think in Sandton, Jasmine. I think they said they were going to do it in Sandton. For the benefit of our international listeners, Sandton is one of the wealthiest square kilometers in all of Africa. It would have been a big and notable target for its housing of many international business offices. Many tourists go to visit Sandton. It's a very, very rich area. So I remember this, Jasmine. Sorry to interrupt you there, but yes, please continue.
No, and I remember that kept me quite busy. It was all, and I had phone calls from private businesses in Sandton. What is going on? And I'm saying, relax, relax. Can you remember the New Year Eve? It's quite a few years back, and I can't recall the date nor location of the New Year attacks on restaurants we had on the same evening.
In South Africa, yes.
In South Africa.
I remember.
That was the closest we ever got. Yeah.
Yes, I remember. I go on a quick tangent here, but something that this reminds me of is the tavern, what the so-called in the media tavern shootings. This is what they've been dubbed. And so I've often seen Islamic State, unofficial Islamic State supportive channels on Telegram actually celebrating these attacks. And usually, for the benefit of our listeners, usually if an attack is celebrated by an unofficial supportive group, it then is claimed officially by Islamic State. Not all the time, but the fact that these people in these chat rooms who chat about incidents that happen, they maybe even just mention it. They say, the news said there were 3 people killed in a shooting in a tavern in South Africa. These taverns are always, I wouldn't call them a tavern. I think that's more of a British word, even, but they're like pubs, and they're usually situated, as you know, Jasmine, in rural and less developed areas in South Africa, where local people hang out. And I remember thinking to myself, the first time I saw it, I thought, okay, is it just a coincidence that they're celebrating it, and it happened near Christmas, around Christmas, sometimes even on Christmas Eve? It happened at least 3 times in a row in the channels that I was monitoring at those times, and I couldn't really get past the idea that why are these groups that are supportive of IS, why are they celebrating them if they don't care? Right, this to me shows that they care about South Africa in some way. They just don't go as far as claiming attacks. So I don't know what you think about that, Jasmine. Am I exaggerating? Maybe like the same way that some did during the threats towards the LGBTQ parade, or do you think there's something in that? Is it?
Look, what we need to understand, and this is just how I perceive it, the Islamic State since the fall of the Caliphate has succeeded in 2 things. One is their control of their propaganda. That when they issue a claim to credit, seldom you have a false claim. They might exaggerate people being killed, or they're suddenly all Christians. I don't know if there's still space in heaven for me but anyway, the ability to control their propaganda needs to be acknowledged, and their financing network. That remains critical. At an operational level, they have delegated that. That has been left to the different affiliates of the Islamic State. So in Mozambique, Cabo Delgado, you have your local leaders in DRC, Somalia, Mali, Sahel area, and that control. Now, to get back to the tavern issue, it doesn't surprise me what you say, that some jihadists have made reference to this. It shows you. But everything is relevant to ISIS, and everything is relevant to Al-Qaeda. The battle in Gaza, for instance, I mean, the Islamic State and Hamas exactly not lovers to say the least.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no, but what happens in Gaza is relevant to the Islamic State. It presents the
100%.
opportunity. And I think with the Tamil shootings, I will not go as far, and I have not seen the evidence, admittedly, to call it terrorism, that there could be channels on Telegram. I would assume it was Telegram, because that's still the most significant platform in terms of communication and propaganda. It doesn't surprise me, because it opens the scope and opportunity. And remember, in South Africa, when the caliphate was active, and I remember at that stage analyzing the videos and kept one busy. We had South Africans going there. We had South Africans. So the voice of propaganda, the voice and the presence of financing is undeniable a reality.
Absolutely.
And that brings me to domestic prosecution. And that's why I mentioned grey listing. Our ability to prosecute. Now, these are not easy things to prosecute, admittedly. And but our domestic prosecution, and I don't want to limit it only to terrorism. I want to say money laundering as a whole remains. Is the intent and the willingness there to do it? It's something the politicians must answer. I cannot make a call. But that we lack the capabilities. If you look at the money flowing out of the country, you cannot do it in isolation. You need cooperation from the network suppliers. I mean, if you want to go, like we talked the other day, Cara, about Tron, and you go to the owners of those platforms, get the information from them. But then do you have a capability, and what are you looking for?
Exactly. And do you have the knowledge also to even know where to look in the first place? You know, that's also an issue sometimes.
So that is, of course, constant. And I mean, we talk now a lot about jihadists, but if we start looking at ethnic nationalist violence, for instance, if I can take you back to Baghdad, I take you back to the Buramach, there's also other dynamics at play that cannot be ignored, and we have seen them presenting themselves. So in terms of direction, in terms of financing structures, in terms of the near gap reality that they cannot be ignored. Is terrorism, what type of terrorism presents a threat? I would say it's the structured one, the one where there's a ear, because if you look at terrorism today, one of the overwhelming trends, lone wolf terrorism, where a person gets, and I'm using this word with great hesitation, but let me use it for the sake of the podcast, radicalisation. Taking place. We had that discussion as well. We're not going into conceptual narratives.
We're not doing it today.
But an imminent attack? No. Low probability.
I agree.
Low probability. But that terrorism, we cannot define terrorism only by attacks. There's much more at play here.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's so many fronts that it operates on.
There's so many structures and layers that stated. I'm not saying but South Africa as a society, and now I'm generalizing to the extent of ludicrousy, but South Africa is simply, and I'm looking at us as South Africans, not prone to such extreme behavior. But that was the last time we have seen, we're not. For whatever reason, and we can have endless discussions on that. Absolutely. But that terrorism as a reality in the threat landscape must not be ignored, because the grey listing has shown what it's going to do to us, even if it's not violent in nature.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I'm answering your question. Please revert back.
You are answering it. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I absolutely agree. And I'm interested to see if we stay off the grey list. That is what I'm watching the news for every day, just checking. All I want to know from the news is whether we're still off the list, because otherwise it gets very heavy very quickly.
I think they
So,
must
all
make
right.
a revaluation in 2026, no? That's when the next revaluation is due, isn't it?
As far as I'm aware,
Yeah.
so they come back, and then we'll see. So I'm very excited to see that, and hopefully, I'm excited in the positive sense, in that I hope that the changes that were implemented to get us off the list are still being implemented and improved. So we'll see what happens there. Let's move to the second question. So I wanted to ask you, do you agree, or what is your opinion? What do you think that the phenomena of free Palestine influencers, the use of the genocide in Gaza narrative in South Africa, both online and offline, and pressure to be extremely politically correct about the Israel-Gaza conflict have led to an increase in anti-Semitism and support for terrorism in South Africa. I mean there specifically jihadist terrorism. And how could we counter this in an ideal world? Jasmin, I'm already making a lot of assumptions here in the question. I'm assuming that these things are leading to anti-Semitism, not assuming completely, based on things that I've read from other people. People are concerned about this. Jewish people in South Africa are concerned. And that's just anecdotal evidence from my life. What's your take on all of this? Because we know that the Gaza conflict is very important for South Africans, and I think the reason for that is because of in my opinion, I might be wrong, is the use of the apartheid narrative, that there's apartheid in Gaza, there's apartheid in Israel, more that there's apartheid in Israel, and therefore we should hate Israel. And South Africans we are all very aware of our apartheid history. Everybody is very anti-apartheid, as far as the people I know go, which is, most people, if you're not an extremist anymore, you just want to live in peace, right? We just want to live in peace, most of us. I would say that statement confidently, because I truly believe in our people and our country. So what's your take on all of this? Do you disagree? Do you think that there are issues here that need to be split, that I'm grouping, that should perhaps not be together? What's your take on all of this, and what do you think?
You are really on a roll here with your questions. No? Okay, thank you, Cara. But anyway, let's get back to free Palestine activism. I think
Yes.
we find ourselves in a very, I don't want to say unique, but our government, the ANC government, has always had a very strong relationship and a very good relationship with the Palestinian people. I remember prior to the first elections, and now I'm giving away my age, but anyway, when
No worries.
Americans did an interview with Nelson Mandela, we said, for as long as the Palestinian people are not free, we will not be free. So
I
there's,
have seen these posters, Jasmine. I've seen
yeah,
posters with that wording, and I wasn't aware of it, perhaps because of my age. So this is very interesting to me.
and so in terms of the free Palestinian discourse, let's go again back to the facts. October 2023, I think
Yes.
October to December, the South African Jewish Board released a document referring to 95 incidents. I think,
Yes.
I can't remember the university's name now for the love. But anyway, there was a peak in anti-Semitism. There was a peak anti-Zionism. And I don't want to make a clear distinction. Many people argue they are so interlinked, but I don't want to go into that debate.
Yeah, no.
So, and there was this spike with Hamas, which, I mean, no one can dispute. It was a horrific attack. It was
It
a
was horrific. Horrific.
I don't know if you've
Yeah,
seen the videos. I've
I have.
seen.
I have, and
It's gruesome.
yeah.
But
Mm.
it resulted. I remember there was an interview with a person, and I can't. He was walking in London, and within 24 to 48 hours, there were people protesting in support of the Palestinians. Anti-Semitism immediately came to the fore.
Yeah.
Uh, That's an undeniable reality. But I think one should not take the Free Palestinian narrative and supporters thereof, oh, you terrorists. I think that is oversimplifying there. But
Okay.
since then, there has been a decline. According to the Jewish Board, and I'm quoting from their reports because I read their reports, um,
Yes.
in threats against the Jewish communities in South Africa. But the anti-Semitism remains high. So you have people talking this, but seldom acting it. We're back to terrorism again. So I
I
would,
see.
I would, I will take care in saying, I mean, is Hamas a terrorist organization or not? It becomes in South Africa, it becomes a bit of a quagmire in
In,
terms of discussing that and how you see
yeah,
it. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead. I can
absolutely.
talk a lot.
No,
You
you're
can go
right.
ahead.
You're right. You're giving me a very objective opinion of all of this, which I find very useful because we all have our own biases. I'm not going to pretend that I'm better than everybody else and I'm the one person in the world that isn't biased. I think when you ask me if Hamas is a terrorist group, to me, I go to official government um, kind of reactions. I like
Yeah.
to, if America designates the U.S. designates you as a terrorist group, I'm I'm happy. Like then I will also I'm happy to refer to them then as a terrorist group. For
Okay.
example,
Okay.
if England designates free some kind they recently designated a very it's a oh my gosh, can't remember the exact thing, but it's a Palestinian supportive, almost they almost look like humanitarians that are in support of Palestine and helping Palestine in a humanitarian sense. And this group then also got they also were designated a terrorist group recently. It was
Okay.
Palestine
Okay.
Action, that's the name. Palestine
Okay.
Action recently was designated a terrorist group by the UK. And perhaps it's my training, perhaps it's my youth that's coming in here. I tend to rely on those designations because I feel otherwise that my personal biases creep in, and then we start thinking, oh, but are they not? And
Mhm, mhm.
I am one of those people who goes, well, if these authorities say you are, then you are. And if you are doing things in the name of extremism, then in my head, then you are an extremist, whether you're a terrorist or not. This has been an ongoing
That's it.
debate for
Yeah. I
for
will
years,
agree.
right? What is
Yeah.
terrorism? It's this has been an issue since the 1700s. Going back all the way to the French,
Yeah.
where the word terrorist originated. It's
Oh,
it's
I'm so
very
sick and tired of that debate. I'm so sick and tired of it. Yeah, but go,
I'm
yeah,
also sick
I'm
and
with
tired
you.
of it. And it keeps coming up because people say, well, we're not terrorists, we're just freedom fighters. And I'm sometimes scared of that word, freedom fighters, because it implies that I feel it implies that people can hide behind the guise of being a freedom fighter when you are then actually carrying out horrific acts of terror against people. But this is just my analysis. Again,
And that,
I'm
yeah,
not the king of the world. I don't make these designations. But yeah. So do you think? So I see your point about anti-Semitism. There was a peak and then it went down. So that peak coincides, in your opinion, the peak of anti-Semitism coincided with the October 7 attacks
yeah.
in Israel, correct? Okay,
Even
that
with
is
the
very
court case, with our court case, he didn't reach that spike again. He didn't,
interesting.
which was quite
Yeah.
interesting. With the court case,
Mm,
draw quite a lot of attention and a lot of
yes.
theories and speculation and
Abs-
uh,
Absolutely. And I think this is
but
only natural for people to start to wonder and think about it. And it's a very interesting thing to talk to people about in South Africa, especially if I don't want to open a whole other can of worms, but especially then if we think of Iran, the quote freedom fighting that's going on there. I will go on record and say that I do not support by any means the Ayatollah regime, and I absolutely support the the people in the street who want to get rid of the Khomeini regime, and because I just don't believe that a regime like that should be in power and should have a nuclear weapon. But again, this is, I don't know, opening everything up for debate. It's interesting to see how all of these things also come back to South Africa. I have a colleague who attended a peaceful pro or anti IRGC protest in Cape Town recently, but about a few months ago. And this colleague of mine told me that they were there. They had their flags with the lion, which represents the, as we know, the revolution. That's what I would call, or that's ongoing there against the Ayatollah regime. And she said to me that they were approached by and almost countered what we would technically call, I guess, like there was a counter demonstration by Free Palestinian activists who shouted slurs at the Iranians. They were Iranians from Iran who had now moved here to South Africa. So if anyone knows what they're talking about, it's going to be these Iranian local people. And she told me how bizarre she found it, and I do find this is strange to me, this whole, we don't have to go into this, but this whole Free Palestine movement that then almost looks like it supports a terror regime. If you're going to intimidate an anti-IRGC group of peaceful protesters waving Palestinian flags, wearing keffiyehs, covering your face. To me, again, if I see a person in a keffiyeh, in a terrorist poster, that's what my mind goes to. It goes to what people call terrorism. So it's a very difficult thing to balance and think about. And I'm glad we got to the core of the question, which was about which I wanted to focus on, which was the anti-Semitism in South Africa. Is there anything else you would like to comment before we move on to the next section, Jasmin? I know I went very off the rails there, but you know me, so this is just how I am.
No, I love it. I love it if we can share ideas. I've been listening to you, and there's a book by J.M. Berger on defining terrorism. I don't know if you've seen that. On in and out group theory and how he applied it. I would really urge you to read that. That is, in terms of an in group that is relentless and uncompromising, and will not compromise on anything that is outside that group's belief, and will even make use of violence in protecting that in group. To show you the problem, and I agree with you. I mean, if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, if it looks like a duck, then it must be a duck. Surely, where am I missing the logic here? But we're going back then to, and I had, as you know, I had the honor, privilege to be involved in de-radicalization programs. There we go, de-radicalization. Oh, I'm starting to hate that word. But anyway, I like to talk about securitization, but South Africa needs a designating list. That is what is needed. We're relying on the UN list. We have ISIS designated. We have Al Qaeda, and the way terrorism is moving now at the speed of light, and I mean, everyone say, how are we going to counter this propaganda? What's propaganda for you, my friend, is a fact to another person. Now, to counter that is going to be extremely difficult. Then you have government saying, we have launched this. Oh, thank you, Lucy. I've got such a wonderful helper. Thanks, Lucy.
Wonderful team. Fantastic.
And where governments will say that we took lead in de-radicalization programs. And I think, but you are seen as the enemy. It will never work.
No.
And during those engagements, which truly, they were intense, but enriching as well. The ability to create a reality in someone's mind, even if you've never had face-to-face interaction, and the ability to sway a fundamental belief, irrespective what level of violence is being used.
Yes.
And that takes me back, and I don't know why I'm thinking about it. Sorry if I'm jumping around a bit, but there's so much to say. If you think about our whole camp in Syria, those
Yes.
ISIS women and families, those
Yes.
children
Mm.
living there, growing up there, what
Yeah.
is their frame of reference?
Exactly.
And, and now what do you do? Do you now immediately allow them back? Because we've allowed ISIS fighters back into South Africa.
We have.
We've given them new IDs. Welcome
We
home. I've
have.
not heard. I
Mm.
remember the promise made at that stage. They will be under 24 surveillance. And I'm thinking, don't make me laugh.
Yeah,
You know,
please.
if you look at it,
Let's be
the proper
realistic.
surveillance, and if you look at the surveillance report in the
Mm.
intelligence, sorry, my opium in life is intelligence.
Love it.
And
Go ahead.
there's 10 minutes lacking
Mm.
in that report. That report loses all value because you
Because you
don't know
don't know.
what happened in that 10
You
minutes.
don't know what they were doing. You can't, if you don't have a robust surveillance infrastructure that is truly top notch, that I want to compare almost to the US and Israel, because I believe they are two of the best intelligence services in the world. That they've proven themselves to have access where no one else has access. And if you don't have, if you're right, you can't know unless you're very, very good. There's no way you can know what everyone does all the time. What if they go to the bathroom? Okay, you don't have your surveillance set up there for, let's say, ethical reasons and the law prohibits it. Okay. Maybe there's something hidden in the wall, you passing papers through the wall, something like that. You don't know what people are doing all the time. That also worries me and reminds me of the I'm conscious of the time, but it reminds me of the that bizarre, in my opinion, bizarre flight that landed here, Jasmine. It came from Gaza. It had aboard,
Mhm.
allegedly, humanitarian asylum seekers, people who were evacuated from Gaza because of their situation to come and help them. Firstly, why are you coming to South Africa and not going to Jordan, Lebanon, nearby places where you speak the
Egypt,
same dialect?
Egypt.
Egypt. Why is there a big wall between Gaza and Egypt, Jasmine? But that's for another day. But exactly, why are we not going there? Where you speak the language and the culture is more similar than it is here in South Africa in general, right? Not that we are. I think we are very welcoming to Muslims and people of all kinds of faiths in South Africa. But my point is that it would be much harder to assimilate here. Then these people were there were children on board, there were women on board, and there were men on board. I remember seeing a photo of the people taken in the cabin. They landed, they didn't have visas. Then they were allowed into
Mhm.
the country on a tourist visa. And now I'm asking myself, now you're a tourist? And then they were here for 3 months, and that's all I know up to there for that. I haven't looked into it further. I don't know if they've overstayed their 3 months visa yet, if it's even reached 3 months already. But that was bizarre to me, and these things make alarm bells go off in my head. You know what I mean? Why are you bringing a chartered flight? It just doesn't make any. To me, it was so strange, and I hope that it truly was just something good that we were trying to do for the world. But when
It's
Hamas has, for
some,
example, has an official spokesperson for Southern and Central Africa, I think his name is Imad Imad Sabit or Iman Sabit. I will. Uh, Everyone can go Google it and see what the name is, but it's known. It's open source at this point. Everyone knows that Hamas, for example, they have a network here. They have a spokesperson for crying out loud, and then you're bringing a flight of unknown people who weren't stamped out of the country, out of Israel. They weren't stamped out there. I don't know if the Palestinian Authority has the authority to stamp people out of the country in their passport. I'm not sure how that works, but they didn't have anything like that. And then we're also arriving in Cape Town, not Johannesburg. We're in Cape Town where there is a whole lot of history of and more a history of immigration. People here are very welcoming. It's a place where people are more likely to just kind of assimilate in easily to the local environment. Lots of Muslim groups here. People. I am not saying that all Muslims are terrorists. Disclaimer, that is not what I'm saying, everybody. Don't shout at me in the comments or shout at me, who cares? But so yeah, I wanted to quickly ask you, like, again, is that me being, am I over exaggerating the threat, or is that a threat to South Africa?
You know, now you're going to, and we're not going to go into that, what constitutes a threat. Being a constructivist at heart, it's how the issue is being constructed and your capability to deal with it. The fact of the matter is, if you start playing in the devil's background or back garden, you must be willing to dance to his tune. And note, I'm saying he, I did not say her, because the devil is, yeah. Let me not play the gender game. But if one looks at the threats to South Africa at this point in time, I'm looking, for instance, at organized crime, illegal smuggling, illegal mining. I look at the ease of access into South Africa.
The border, massive borders.
And that applies to extremism as well. We cannot allow, and it takes me back to, if you start talking about your threat, you have to look at your capability to deal with that threat. And that is where our problem lies. And I think with multiple threats, that is the case. Will I prioritize terrorism at this point in time as a high priority threat? Yes. But then I would say, let's define that threat. I'm not saying, Jasmin says there's going to be an attack on international. I'm saying the structural layer of terrorism presents an open field in South Africa that, with the grey listing, has proven itself in terms of the capability to be able to deal with that. So I'm not going to gaslight for the sake of terrorism. I'm just going to say, if you want these so-called freedom organizations, so-called, because I mean the link between Hamas and Iran, Hezbollah, the Muslim Brotherhood, if you go into all these proxies at play in Syria, in Iraq, we can have endless discussions on that. It's undeniable. So Iran is a supporter of terrorism, without a shadow of doubt. Does that mean it justifies the US bombing of Iran? I would say, I did not say that. I'm saying, looking from the days are gone where there are goodies and baddies. That's the era has gone by. We cannot look at the world like this anymore. But extremism cannot be seen as a relative matter. It's a reality, and due to its nature, it gains a footprint. And once it is there, you do not get rid of it. We've seen this in Gaza. ISIS is not going anywhere. We've seen it in the DRC. ISIS is not going anywhere. And I think I was hoping that with Cabo Delgado, it would be a wake-up call on the reality of these dynamics. Yeah, we had our defense force deployed there for a time. Rwanda, using the opportunity to maximum benefit. Kagame is playing his playbook as always, and he's doing it brilliant. He's doing it brilliantly.
Absolutely. There's a whole textbook to be written about his tactics. Absolutely.
It's just interesting, Cara, you know, and I don't want to complicate the debate. Yes, terrorism can, to get back, let me just answer your question first. Terrorism as a threat. It's interesting, and I'm thinking now, if one looks at the terrorism discourse taking place now, one of them is about the thinning, with the Trump administration, there's a thinning of capability. Budget allocations, people being moved around or shipped out. And there's a concern that with that cooperation between intelligence services will go out the window. There's a concern that this opens the door for a self-radicalized individual to be able to execute an attack, be it hate, be it whatever the reason for the attack to take place. But I think that we should not live in cloud cuckoo land here. And I mean, at the end of the day, if we buy oil from Iran, and I'm just asking a question, and they use that money to support a proxy, is that not supporting terrorism?
Is that not supporting terrorism, Jasmin?
I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah. We will leave it at that question for our listeners to ponder while I quickly go to question 3, which we've already kind of touched upon, which is, in your opinion, why has the South African government failed to address the issue of Muslim South African organizations to pose as NGOs to fund and support Palestinian groups, among others, Palestinian terrorist groups, among others? This is again quite a loaded question, lots of assumptions from me, but I'm keen to hear your take on it. For example, why hasn't, like, so this is not a really relevant example, but for example, I'm thinking why they haven't even, as far as I'm aware today, on the 20th of May, South Africa's government has not designated Hamas as a terrorist organization.
No.
So to me, that already speaks volumes, okay, about their view of the group. So without me going into a tangent, what is your take on the support on fake NGOs that send money out of South Africa to Palestine, but also out to Somalia and DRC, but let's speak about Palestine specifically.
Yeah. I do not think that there was an intentional decision taken. And I am not a political analyst. I still struggle with understanding what that means, by the way.
Yeah.
But let's look at our Aqsa Foundation in South Africa. Let's look at our Quds Foundation in South Africa. They were designated 2003,
Yes.
And in 2012, our Quds Foundation. And we also had several banks being accused of accounts that's raising red flags in terms of these financing taking place.
Yes.
I think there's a deeper problem here, and I'm thinking now about the Commission of Inquiry that's taking place currently. In terms of our institutional capability, our institutional skills base, our institutional level of expertise to be able to deal. Because with such a thing as financing, if one looks at how it's taking place, the smurfing, small amounts using Tron goes out and then it gets collected. But anyway, and if you look at the level of cooperation between our intelligence services and those that hold license to these platforms, it's just an example, if they are not in place.
Correct.
Because
100%.
and I know of some of these owners of these platforms that were willing to give it to our intelligence service, and our intelligence services denied it.
Denied it. I
was sitting there thinking, why? Because you are hiding your own lack of capability, your own lack of skills, your own understanding of the importance of the information. I think that is where our problem lies. Even if the Financial Intelligence Center, if you have to follow each and every transaction to another state over 10,000 Rand, I will go mad. I will go insane.
I would lose my mind, Jasmin. Surely we can't be doing things like that in this day and age.
And I mean, those accusations against banks, Standard Bank, one of them. I hope you don't mind me mentioning specific examples, but up until now, there has been no follow-up on this. And so where are we left with this? And I think this is our problem. It's the ability. If you ask me today, Jasmin, do you think there has been funding to the ISIS in Mozambique, Cabo Delgado? I would say to you, Cara, that there's a high probability, yes. I have not seen definitive amounts being transferred to Cabo Delgado. Have I seen South African fighters? Not one South African. And I'm not saying I have the whole list, and I do not know everyone that has died. But I have not, and that I'm saying with people I'm working with closely, which I'm honored to be working with, they have not picked it up, which is again an interesting phenomenon in South Africa. But I don't want to deviate from your question. I think what is also important here is the whole issue of religion. Now, I don't want to, but the fact of the matter is, if we talk religious freedom and we talk Islam, they're pillars of faith. One of them is famous.
Absolutely. Yeah.
payments to be made. So you can have a South African in good faith making such a payment.
Yeah.
What happens to it remains. And the fact that the US has, remember, all goods in South Africa has never been listed by the US, no? Or
That's
never.
correct.
And,
Never.
and then you have charity organizations, gift of the givers.
Yeah. Mm?
Gift of the
Yeah,
givers.
one of the
And they're
most
doing
famous.
good work. Let's be
They
honest,
do.
they do
They
good
do.
work.
Yeah.
And now articles are running, they are a front. And I'm
Yes.
thinking, but give me the evidence.
Evidence.
And that is where the problem comes in with financing of terrorism.
Yeah.
It's easy, like we've seen in Nigeria recently, to go in, kill 175 Islamic State fighters and
Yeah.
claim there was second in charge of Islamic State
Yeah.
present at that point in time. But that does not stop the financing.
No, it
That does not
doesn't.
stop loyalty. And I think this is where South Africa is what South Africa is grappling
Yeah,
with. It
I
is,
think so.
and do we have the skills? Can we do it? If we prioritize it, I believe we can.
Then we
It's just a
can.
quick. It's not been.
Absolutely. We can do it. I have so much faith in the people of South Africa. If you look at when disasters, natural disasters strike, for example, there's been a very recently, there's been lots of flooding all over the Western Cape. People come together, and when they come together, they truly, and this sounds like such a cliche thing that we always say in South Africa, but it's because it's true. When great people come together, they solve a problem. And I think part of, like you said, the issue is underlying. So while we're not necessarily being attacked, we don't have the exact monetary trails to follow for terrorist financing from South Africa. We can do it, and we can counter it, and we can stop being a logistical base and like a what's the technical word? It's like yeah,
Safe
I'm just gonna
haven.
call it a safe haven, correct? For these groups and for their supporting functions. It's not just about attacks, which I think people often think. It's about how do you get your weapons for the attacks? How do you train your people? You're paying them money. We know that they're getting paid money because that's one of the main ways that people are drawn to the groups. For example, in Nigeria, this is a very common thing where that people don't just all have been left to their own devices in terms of their socio-economic situation, and then it's tempting. Of course, it's the same with South Africa. The gang violence here. What is drawing sometimes one factor that draws children as young as 14, 15 into the gangs here, for example, in the Cape Flats, it's the money factor. It's that they say they'll pay them. So this is, I completely agree that these are the underlying, we need to address these underlying causes. And at the moment, we are not, I want, the government is not in a position to be addressing them effectively, unfortunately. So,
It's
um,
interesting. I just want to add to what you've been saying, and it doesn't relate directly to your question. So mind me
no,
chipping
no
in.
worries. Yeah.
I have videos, and I'm not going to be very specific in terms of
That's okay.
where shooting ranges are being used as training.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've also heard of these videos. I haven't seen them, but
And
I've heard
I
of
have
them.
seen it, and it's interesting. They start with the Islamic State flag, pops up,
It pops up.
and the
And then
music, and
again, and then there's a whole music playing in the background, Jasmine. And again, it's the walks like a duck, talks like a duck.
quite like that,
if they
looks like
if
that.
they talk a talking duck, you know what I mean. And again, then I'm like, what do I say to this? Another day we can go into the issue of the Lebanese, not Lebanese.
Libyans.
They were from Libya, the Libyan people that were trained here, that were
Look,
discovered on a farm.
oh,
We can go
that
into that
thing.
in our next
No, we
one.
must discuss that. I couldn't
Go ahead.
believe the mayhem around that. I'm sitting here
Yeah.
thinking,
Mm,
no,
mm,
but I mean, each situation to itself, we'll have to discuss the
yeah.
nuances around it. Because you do know that training was actually legit, no? You know,
Really, I
that
didn't know
document.
that. So
Yeah.
what was it? Were they
So what was
a
the issue?
security company?
that they were linked to political interest in Libya without a doubt. So that's where the problem comes in.
Oh,
But the
okay.
training itself was according to SIRA requirements.
So
Why
was
was
it,
that?
wow, why was that left out of the news? I don't remember reading that like huge caveat. So were they, you say they were associated with the Libyans. Was that the government in Tripoli, or was that other side? What's it
The government,
called?
if my memory serves me, and I stand to be corrected, the government in Tripoli. If
In
my memory
Tripoli.
serves me
Okay.
correctly, if we're
Okay.
going back
Okay.
a few years. So there was, and I remember that, and again, the whole issue of intelligence failure. Why didn't we know about it? I think stop securitizing the issue, get the facts.
Yeah. No,
And
absolutely.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's not for me to make a call
True.
on that one, but just
Mm.
get the facts before
Get
we
the
start
facts.
gaslighting.
Exactly,
Um,
and then tell the public, tell us, because I work mainly in OSINT, although I have experience with my own, sometimes reaching out to my people just to see if they can help me. But if you're working in OSINT, that is such a valuable piece of information that you can just get from the news, from a reliable news source. I mean, if just give us the whole picture. There, but then I imagine again that the media doesn't know. They didn't know, and that it wasn't on purpose that they didn't tell us the full picture, that they were CYRA compliant and that they were actually legit. So that's a whole other thing, the media and how all of this is portrayed and the influence of political parties in the media. I'm going to pause us there, and then we're going to hop to our last three questions. So here I want to make special note of and say thank you very much to our wonderful colleague Itumeleng Owa Selialia, who is not with us today, but who designed these questions, because I think they are super, super relevant. So thank you, Itumeleng. And we hope to see you again on our next podcast, Itumeleng. But in lieu of that, let me go to the first question. So, um, how do you assess the impact of shifting global power dynamics, particularly the rise of multipolar influences on the strategic planning and operational capabilities of extremist jihadist groups in both Africa and the Middle East? What is your take on this, Jasmin?
wow. Do we have 2 hours? A very relevant question.
Yes.
And sadly, you've just touched on it, Cara.
Mhm.
If you look at all the social media platforms around and you see the so-called experts in expertise running around, one has to be very careful. But yet, let's try to answer that question to the best of our ability.
Let's try.
Let's start with, I think the crucial example I want to start with is what has happened in Mali. JNIM, Al
Yes,
Qaeda
let's hear it.
alliance that
Mhm.
started working with the FLA as a freedom party or whatever. And the moment they managed to integrate their capabilities, the successes they've had. And but already here, we are seeing a conflict of interest because JNIM,
Mm.
for the, I'm trying to find the right words here, I don't know why, but anyway, for the FLA, for them it's about the Tuaregs. That is to say, the ethnic group in Mali, and for them
Yes,
about self-determination.
correct.
JNIM
Infidel.
is active in Niger, is active in the Burkina Faso,
Correct.
Togo, um,
Togo.
Togo, sorry, I don't know, maybe I must
Yes,
like my secrets, Togo. So you
Togo.
have
Then,
already this jihadist mindset of
yeah.
what happens in this state cannot stay in this state. It must go beyond. It is
Exactly.
reaching for. Now, will JNIM be willing to compromise on that? The interesting fact is in Syria, HTS has
Yes,
compromised. They
they
broke
did.
away
They did.
from Al Qaeda, from the Islamic State, and they
Yeah.
want the government in Syria. So they've
Yeah.
succeeded. Al
They did.
Shabaab in Somalia, they although they
They.
came out as Al Qaeda,
Yeah.
we do not see that they are going beyond what's happening in
Mm.
Somalia. It's going to
Yeah.
be interesting to watch what JNIM is going to do
Yeah.
with the successes they're having in that area.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the critical aspects of, let's call it jihadist extremism for what it is
Yes.
if you look at Islamic State, when they had the caliphate, why did they not say that this is enough? This is it. We will stay here. No, that is not the
No.
end goal. That's not the end
Mm-mm.
goal. Now,
No.
what is happening in the world today is, I've mentioned it early on, so I don't want to repeat myself,
Go
is that
ahead.
counter-terrorism, the architecture, that what must counter. There's a
Yeah.
concern among a lot of think tanks that there's a capacity that is shrinking day by day. If you look at the US
I
counterterrorism
see.
strategy,
I
there's
see.
a mayhem, and making an issue of left-wing terrorism and not right-wing. And I'm thinking, oh Lord.
Yeah,
But
all of
anyway,
this.
they were not complementary. So you
Yeah.
also sit then with that reality. Then Russia in Mali, in Nigeria,
Yes.
that
Africa
is trying to
core.
fill the gap, and
Yep.
it has proven not to work.
It,
Why?
mm,
Because Russia can maybe protect a president, can
sure.
maybe protect certain individuals, but protecting a state is a different ballgame.
It's a
And
different
remember,
story.
African core, with
Mm.
its linkages back to Moscow. Moscow is involved in a war in Ukraine, and it's not
Yeah.
going well.
Nope.
I hope I'm
Yeah.
not going to cut out. I don't know why it's saying that. Let's just move on.
No, we can
Um,
hear you clearly. Continue.
um, And I think that is one of the interesting factors that we cannot, is that the African core has not been able. So the whole French issue comes into play, the
It
support
does.
that they provided. Then
Yeah.
China is the other role player.
And the mines and China and Mali, Chinese
It is,
mining workers getting abducted and then released for a
mhm.
ransom. Yeah.
It's fascinating now with China is the
Mm.
moment they move in, they've never done it previously, is the deployment of security. Now, is this the first step in terms of active engagement? We will have to wait and see because
Yeah.
China plays its game. I don't want to go into all the detail.
Yeah, no.
Um, and then what they say here, or what the notes I've taken, and bear with me,
Take your time.
is that the US involvement in these types of situations is transactional. That is to
Okay.
say, whereas China and Russia will move in from a different mindset, the
Yeah.
Western mindset is transactional.
Yeah.
You do this, we do this.
We
You
do
allow
this.
people to vote, we do this. And so
Correct.
your question about the world that is shifting is,
Yeah.
we will not see a Cold War set up again. We will
I
not
agree.
see globalization in terms of let's just hold hands, kiss and make up, and wow, what a wonderful life.
Wow.
No,
Yeah. No, we
this
won't see it.
splintering
Mm.
that is taking place uh,
Yeah.
starts raising a lot of insecurity for markets, for the economy, for what we are used to. And it's going to
Mm.
be the ability of government to find the opportunity within this reality. There is no certainty anymore. If you talk about
Mm.
the Sahel problem is nothing new, Cara, you know it.
Ah, it's not
Jane,
new.
it's
No.
nothing new, and the complexity
Mm-mm.
thereof. DRC, Eastern DRC, with Rwanda, with Uganda, with Burundi.
Correct.
It's a regional.
The history of all of that is
So
today
it
playing
is,
a role. Absolutely.
and it's creating, because of this insecurity it creates and
Mm.
doubt it creates. Western think tanks tends to personalize it. They try to draw it back to a specific
Back to the
individual or a specific person. Um,
yeah.
I mean, if you look at Biden when the US stepped out of Afghanistan, it was mayhem.
Oh,
It was mayhem. And what's happening
it was
today? Taliban in power. Now we see, and
over
I
the
couldn't
country.
help but smile because now we're talking Al Qaeda, now we're talking Pakistan, and
Mm.
suddenly Pakistan
Oh, suddenly
is
we're bringing
mediating the
Khorasan
talks.
in. Oh,
Is
there's so
mediating
much
the
we can
talks.
say.
Oh,
No,
no, it's
absolutely.
so.
Absolutely. Mm.
At the end, JNIM Mali has shown that with technology, with
Yeah.
AI, they can accelerate the actions. But keep in mind, and this is crucial and fundamental, and I think this is where people tend to miss the debate about AI,
Okay.
that AI allows you that leverage of speed, but it does not give you the opportunity.
Yeah, I
Remember,
agree.
AI is yet in a phase of generalized intelligence
Yes.
knowledge. It's not
Yeah,
in a
it's not.
phase of
Mm-mm.
meta-analysis in terms of
No,
looking, and that
not
creates
at
a
all.
problem. I think this is where I see
Mm.
AI as exciting. I see it as a
Very,
wonderful tool.
very
Um,
exciting.
but we've seen with Islamic State Khorasan how they use and they make videos. And I'm thinking, and I see on LinkedIn, there's a hell of a debate here. And I'm thinking, what did you expect? They
Yeah,
know,
of course.
of course, they're going to use it, but what are we
Yeah.
doing to use it?
To counter it,
To
exactly.
counter
No,
it.
you're right.
And I think it was the Accolade report, if I'm correct, that I read last
Oh,
week.
yes.
Over
Mm.
80% use of drones, 80% of the attacks
Oh,
in
yes, yes, yes.
isolating.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I can't. I think it was
Yeah, yeah,
Accolade. Yeah,
yeah.
I
I
do
think
enjoy
that's
it.
what they said.
Yeah.
Mm.
So the whole issue of competition has become fragmented. US has lost its soft skill power in the
Yes,
world. It
yes.
has. It is
Mm.
without doubt. NATO is caught in a situation. They don't have a military.
Yeah.
They don't have that power.
Um,
And I think that's why the Russian issue is such
it's
a
so
complex issue for them.
important. Yeah.
Sudan is horrific.
Oof,
Ethiopia.
Sudan,
Um,
one of the top three worst
so it's
humanitarian situations. It's so upsetting. It's,
And
yeah.
it takes me back to your question of terrorism as a
Mm.
threat to South Africa.
Mm.
Um, if one looks at a world used to what we've seen from the 90s and onward in terms of Cold War
Mm.
coming to an end and
Mm.
the stability and look, there are less wars today than any time in the history of humankind.
That's
So
true, which
actually,
says something
but you go to
about
Sudan
the
and you
human
look at the
psyche.
misery of those people, and you think, but how can you be silent on
Mm.
this? Nigeria, Northeast Nigeria.
Yeah.
But it's going to be the ability of government in all this fragmented noise to
Yeah.
sit down and proud.
I,
And hence, I'm coming back to my opium intelligence. This is
yes,
where intelligence is going to become crucial.
absolutely.
But do we have the intelligence capability at this point in time to do it?
Exactly.
Uh, the way
Exactly.
I
So
understand it, there's
definitely.
at this point in time in South Africa a disregard for strategic analysis.
I agree.
How?
100%.
How can
I
you?
don't know
And
how.
it doesn't make sense. I mean, any
No.
analyst will tell you, I am doing, and I'm looking at specific silos, and I'm trying to see how they interlink and get to the meta level. That is to say, the level of predictability in the near
Mm.
future.
Yes.
Yes, it remains plausible. It remains a degree of probability, but at
Mm.
least I have a torch in my hand, whereas
Exactly.
your client has
Exactly.
one. And this
Exactly.
is the challenge, I think. So the world, yes,
Mm.
has fragmented. Trump has fragmented it. And please, I don't want to go into a whole debate about Trump.
No.
I'm so sick and
No.
tired of this pro and anti-Trump.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
but there's one thing about Trump I must say: what he says, he will do. Rest assured.
There was an interview with him, like I want to say when he looks like in his late 20s, early 30s. You know, the point is that back then he said that he thought that America should have attacked Iran, and then zoom forward to the present time, and he did it. So he sticks with what he says. Hey, so that's at least something to hold on to. If he says something, then we at least know what to look for, because because so far, as far as I know, he hasn't done anything that he hasn't said, or hasn't said something that he hasn't done. So we'll see. I don't quote me on that, people, but in general, he seems to do what he says. So no, that's very good. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to push us to the next question, Jasmine, which
Okay,
is
you must please keep it.
from
Yeah, I can talk a lot, so you must quiet
no,
me.
me too, absolutely. So, from a geopolitical standpoint, what role do you believe local grievances and governance gaps play in the spread of extremist ideologies? And how might this inform counterterrorism strategies in regions like the Sahel or the Horn of Africa? This is a very important question, in my opinion. What's your take on it?
Critical, critical.
Mm.
Um, for Islamic State, and I want to bring in Al Qaeda as well,
Yes,
chaos is the
absolutely.
ideal environment. Ideal environment.
100%.
Mali,
100%.
if you, and I would assume that many of our listeners will have read their history, or not in-depth
Yeah.
history being a historian, but understand the complexities.
Yes.
Cabo
Yeah.
Delgado, DRC,
DRC,
Iraq,
Somalia.
by which the Americans created themselves. If you see what has happened in Libya, I still think that is one of the biggest mistakes NATO has made. But that's
Because
just that is not in a professional capacity. I'm saying it. I'm saying it's a personal. Um,
absolutely, my personal opinion is the same.
um, and what we are seeing now is with Islamic State specifically and with Al Qaeda as well, is
Yeah.
to hook into these
These
disputes,
local,
levels of violence already at
correct,
play, bringing in
correct.
their own finance, bringing in their own method
Mm-hmm.
of propaganda. If you look at Mozambique, around Mozambique da Praia,
Yes,
um, and the propaganda on how how it's shifting and hooking
absolutely.
into the whole ethnic diversity in that region.
Mm.
Without that, ISIS will be a mere lone wolf actor. A person
Yes,
here, a person there. They need the instability. And
they
I've been
need it.
saying this for years, that this is what's allowing them to grab a situation. Then I ask myself, if they can grab it, why can't we solve
Why
it?
can't we? That's
Uh,
a good
and
question.
that is our problem at this point in time. These disputes, violent confrontations like Sudan, Ethiopia, um,
Mm. Even
has
parts
been,
of northern Niger, where we see, for example, like ethnic nationalist groups
um,
or armed political groups, which is perhaps a better term. We see them also there in the northern desert of Agadez. If if they could be reached, and there's already a whole, it's a very complicated thing already with the Libyan support coming to some of those groups, and they're near the border. I don't want to go into the whole thing, but that's an even there in the remotest parts of the Sahara Desert, we I can imagine and see Islamic State exploiting them, because they already not exploiting, yeah, exploiting them for their own gain. They have their local grievances. You say, well, team up with us and we'll help you, and next thing you know, you have a booming IS camp in Agadez in the middle of nowhere. Might I add, where there is an international oil pipeline that goes through Agadez from the Agadim oil field all the way through Niger, all the way through Benin to the port in Cotonou in Togo. I think to Benin. Either
Benin.
Benin or Togo. And the point is that there is a very lucrative oil pipeline going through there, and there's mines, so gold mines. So yes, sorry to interrupt you, but my point is that I can even imagine it in happening in these remote areas that we don't pay attention to, and
Yeah.
that's maybe the part of the issue. Also, is it's just over there. Who cares? Whatever. It's just Africa, which I have a whole opinion on, but um, no, I agree with you, and I think it's a very interesting phenomenon, which we will certainly discuss as we continue in
I
our
would love
next
that. Yeah.
time, because I think that's very interesting. I'm going to push us, for the sake of time, to our final question, which is, how might extremist jihadist groups leverage emerging technologies such as encrypted comms or cryptocurrency to adapt to increasing international cooperation on CT efforts, that's counterterrorism efforts, and what implications does this have for global security architecture? So I was just reading recently about, has been known for a while, Islamic State uses Monero, one of the most popular cryptocurrencies out there. It's untraceable. It's very private, which I don't want to go into the privacy versus like you're allowed privacy because you're a normal person, but then we also want to track you because maybe you're a jihadist terrorist. That's a whole debate. But overall, what is your opinion on the use of encrypted crypto, and the international counterterrorism efforts around this?
if I'm looking at my notes here,
Go ahead.
if I look at the Islamic State Khorasan, its cryptocurrency is estimated now, and we're talking Afghanistan, Pakistan, Asia,
Okay.
25 to $100,000 per month through cryptocurrency.
Whoa.
Do I need to say that?
Wow.
So
That's all you need to say, Jasmine. That's amazing. Interesting that it's in Khorasan region. Oh, I would imagine in those regions people are quite tech aware. Okay, in Afghanistan it's a different story. The humanitarian situation is completely crazy. But if I'm thinking of Pakistan, known for their tech savviness, known for their love of new technology, known for their startups, their tech startups, known in South Africa for their technology shops that they
yeah,
have and that they sell, where they sell things and where they repair computers, etc., etc. That's interesting. Do you think the region has and the people in that region is part of the reason that crypto is so popular for terrorism financing, or is
well,
that just a different
let's
story?
look at Bitcoin, because saying
Okay.
that, let's look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
Tron, smurfing, small amounts,
Okay.
58% of illicit crypto volume, 2025. How much
Wow.
value? We don't know.
Wow.
Um, so we're talking major blockchains here. Stable
Yeah.
coins, 63% of laundering activity.
Whoa.
So
Massive amounts.
it
Massive.
does not take
Okay.
much
True.
to have this present and to be able to execute, as long as you have the platform and those that own the platform hold it tight. But it's taking
Exactly.
place. Hamas funding via crypto
Oh,
is
I'm
still
curious. This is
continuing.
gonna be high.
And sadly, I don't. The last time I've checked, and I must actually check again, talk to certain people. But at the end of the day, it has also, as the international order has become fragmented, it
Yeah.
has become fragmented. So your techniques to be able to identify, to know what you're looking for, and to be able to pick up smurfing
Yeah.
needs levels of skills that needs
Absolutely.
to be in place. And again, I'm not saying we do not have the skills. If we do, we're not utilizing them.
We're not
I
using
mean,
them.
what in our last discussion,
Mm,
Telegram, when it comes to
yeah.
propaganda, is still the most active and still most
Paradigm.
used. But when
Mm,
it comes to funding, when it comes to the operational layer, let's go to Rocket Chat as a case in point. It is, and I've got screenshots
absolutely.
here. So we are talking about the decentralization of the way
Yeah.
financing is done. So you cannot do it in isolation anymore. You have,
Okay.
and that takes me back to the critical question: is
Mm,
our liaison partners in place in terms of countering these activities?
mhm.
Are they playing open cards? Because intelligence liaison is also not a different game to be
Yeah.
played.
Yeah.
Um, and then I don't have a date here, and this kicks me when I do things like this.
Oh,
There was 17 rotating wallets
wow.
floating around in which funds directly went to Hamas by cash.
You
By
see,
cash.
I cannot say that I'm surprised by that, Jasmine. They are one of the most, since I've become interested in reading about them, they are so organized in the sense of organized crime. I mean, I'm not
It,
admiring them for their, their organization, this in the traditional sense. But my point is that if they have that, then clearly governments worldwide need to use this as a case study, because look how much damage they've done. Look how much damage Hamas can do to both their own people in the Gaza Strip, to some extent in the West Bank, and very small isolated incidents, and then towards Israel. And it, it to me shows that this is an opportunity for South Africa to learn from this case study of how much money Hamas and how much opportunities and how smart they are. All of this, how much they use this to fund their on the ground activities with cash. It's it's amazing and it's untraceable. And I think that we need to. I think the South African government needs to be paying more attention to this. I know we're spread thin. It's a whole issue. We can talk about why South Africa is the way it is on ad nauseum, but in my head, this crypto financing has always been a huge problem, and I don't know how we're going to counter it. I think we need to be aware of it, at least. And that's worrying, is that no one seems to be aware of it in the South African. Maybe they are aware in the South African setup, but it's not clear to me. They don't tend to publish facts. As far as I know, maybe they have. Share them in the comments if you can find them, about these stats that you've been reading out for us, right? We have them of Hamas, we have them from, you have the different types of blockchains that they've been using, all of this. I doubt that I can find that information for South Africa, even though it exists. I think it's likely that crypto is being used in South Africa to
It is being
funnel.
used. I'm saying that to you
It's
as a matter of fact.
fantastic. Then I'm very happy to
I
learn that.
will
Thank
gladly share the detail with you offline.
you.
Um,
Yeah. So it's
but
I
that
don't know. What do
actually,
you think about countering it? What should we do?
again, intelligence, I'm
Mm,
talking about official intelligence
yes.
agencies.
Yes.
Let's generalize it.
Let's do it.
Must stop hiding
Mm.
behind a wall.
Yeah.
Must stop using the concept national security, which is a highly contested concept,
Absolutely.
to justify their silence. If you are
Mm.
if you can create partnerships with these platforms in terms of accessing certain vital this is because crypto,
Exactly.
Bitcoin, name it what you want, always
Yeah,
leaves a footprint.
it does.
It's for you to pick up that footprint, and the
Exactly.
opportunities are there. But again, it's going to take massive skills,
Yeah,
massive
absolutely.
prioritization to be able to pick it up. And then you
Mm.
have to go to court, and 10 years later, another
Oh,
100,000.
and
That's
by
that's
that
gone.
time, that one case went to court, like you
It's
say, hundred
so
thousand more have popped up. So it
it
needs
is.
to be an institutional.
It has to be.
Thing.
But to go back to your question, that is just one leg. If we look at drone
Mm.
proliferation, Moscow
Yeah.
had its victory parade. They
It
didn't
did.
deploy their tanks, and you know why?
You know
Because
why?
they feared that Ukraine will drone them,
Yeah.
the
Yes.
tanks.
Drone warfare
And
in Moscow has
let me
been very
again say
important.
it as a matter of fact. They,
Mm.
Ukraine has the
They,
capability to hit
yeah,
them with drones in Moscow. So
we've
your
seen it.
drone proliferation, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things we can discuss here. I mean, not only even drones, but drone jamming is another example. If
Another
you look at
example. Mm.
radar, there are so many pillars related to this whole issue of
Yeah.
technology. AI, I've mentioned the videos
Mm.
being made.
Yes.
But, and again, I want to say but,
Yes.
because if an extremist organization, and I'm not underestimating them at all, never underestimate your enemy, um,
Absolutely.
if they can utilize it to such maximum benefit, what
Mm.
is it in a state setup that is not allowing us to be able to? Yes, you
Correct.
can come, they don't have to be ethical, they don't have to account,
Correct.
yeah, but still, at the
But
speed,
still.
this disparity that is
Yeah.
taking place now is a
Yeah.
serious level of concern. And then
Absolutely.
I think the other problem is on this, and sorry, I don't want to labor this issue,
Go
is
on.
that
Go.
if you look at how intelligence is viewed,
Mm.
defined, used, I still feel some days we're stuck in the early 2000s. I
Okay.
don't see that mind shift taking place
Mm.
in terms of the need for coordination, the
Mm.
dependency uh, to be able to talk with the US, the Five
Yeah.
Eyes,
The Five
and
Eyes.
distance.
Why aren't we partnering with them?
Um,
Yeah. I
and
understand.
again, liaison is a very skilled sector in intelligence that takes a unique skill to get maximum out of it. It depends on what you're looking for.
Mm.
But
Mm.
these limitations we can overcome if we're willing to start doing what I've just explained. Um,
Absolutely.
and I think it's going to be interesting to see in the near future. I think that China
Mm.
and Russia is
Yeah.
going to be, because with the soft skill lag of America at this point in time, it is going to become an open door more than extremism. It's also political opportunity. And this is where
Definitely.
we need to be wide awake. And
Wide awake. Mm.
I mean, to go into ChatGPT and ask a question takes nothing.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
doesn't. Absolutely.
you like a
Yeah.
cover band, you take an old song and you just rephrase it. Um,
Absolutely.
but already how they using AI at these types of level, large
Yeah.
language models being used.
Models. Mm.
And if we do not optimize damn quickly
Yeah.
to see the opportunity and use the opportunity, we're going to fall
True.
behind. And terrorism will always have the element of surprise, especially
Mm.
these days. You've seen the level of attacks taking place across Europe, in America. You
Oh,
go to Russia, and
yeah.
your surprise element is for them the key factor here.
Yeah.
And there's this saying, I've listened to a podcast, but anyway, that jihadists had the edge because they claim that they don't fear dying for their faith. Well,
Mm.
Mr. ISIS guy, I don't fear life, and I will fight for life, not for death.
There we go. There we go.
Um,
I love it.
um,
Mm.
and at the end of the day, the same applies here for me. It is
Mm.
the willingness to go beyond your ideological confinements
Yeah, yeah.
in
Yeah.
understanding what
Mm.
we are talking about when we
Yeah.
talk terrorism. Instead of shouting,
Mm.
oh, it's a freedom organization. I don't care
Absolutely.
what you call it.
Yeah.
Civilians are dying.
Yeah.
Civilians are dying.
Civilians are dying. You can call it what
Uh,
you want, but
I mean,
absolutely.
now we go into another complex debate, and it's interesting. It was raised to me by a very dicey person that said, but
Wow.
listen,
Mhm.
Israel is doing state terrorism in Gaza. I said, no, Israel is defending its sovereignty. I'm not
Yeah.
saying everything they've done can be
No.
justified, but
Yeah, no, I don't agree with that, that it's state terrorism in
um,
Gaza. That's not what's happening. No. All right.
so you
Well,
know you enter in that frame, but
yeah.
the thing is, you know, you mentioned it earlier. Sorry, Cora, I'm carrying on here. I'm still now.
No, no.
You
All
mentioned
good.
earlier your bias, your subjective. There's no such thing as objectivity, but that must not stop us from having applied methods
Absolutely.
and tools in countering this threat. Because
Absolutely.
if we can start using that as the red line, we are not
Yeah.
objective. Let's stop searching for intelligence, and you know what happens then? We
Mm.
die. We die
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we don't
Absolutely.
use. And this is what I'm trying to say here is it's already happening all over the world. I've got examples here. I can take you right around the world. So up into the Moscow incident we had recently,
Yes.
but I'm
Yes.
not going to go into all that detail. But the
Mm.
fact of the matter is, we cannot go in there with an intelligence mindset still stuck in the 2000s.
We
We
can't.
have to adjust,
Absolutely.
and that's going to be
Absolutely.
critical and key. These days, just an example to your listeners, apologies, listeners, I can talk a lot. Dashboards have become the thing of the day.
Mm.
And I'm
They
thinking,
have. I don't know
what
how
the
much
hell?
they're useful for terrorism, to be honest, like for
That is the
terrorism
same to
monitoring.
me.
Mm.
If everyone say, yes, and it's true, Africa has the highest incidence of attacks by extremist groups.
Yeah.
But look at the geography of Africa, less than
Yeah.
20%. You
Good
see, it
point.
depends on your frame of reference and
On
what
the
you're
frame of
using to.
reference.
So, and that's where
Absolutely.
intelligence has to come in, and that's where strategic
Absolutely.
intelligence becomes important. But let me stop it. Yes, we cannot
Fantastic.
deny the use of technology. We should not be surprised by it, and it will only intensify.
Great. Wonderful. On that very, very eloquent sentence, I hereby conclude our fantastic, fantastic interview with the eminent Jasmin Opperman. Thank you so much. It was really, really wonderful to speak to you. Alvain, any final comments from you?
No, just thank you again, Jasmine, for enlightening us with your mammoth experience and in-depth knowledge. Cara, thank you to you as well. Just for the listeners, please don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this content. And you are free to post questions in the chat. which we will answer as soon as possible. And with that, thank you guys, and I hope to see you guys on the channel soon.
Thank you so much, you too, and thank you, listeners, for all your
Thank you,
patience.
everybody. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jasmine.
Bye-bye.